Dr. Cutter with the Chainsaw Hospital, and this is part 2 of Jerry, our Stihl 038. And we believe this is just an AVEQ. Do not believe this is a Magnum or a Super because it has the 50 millimeter bore. But if you guys know different, let me know. In the investigation of this saw, I did notice something that was kind of neat, and this might shed some light on what this actually is before we start ordering major parts and stuff for it. But there is on this metal side cover. In fact, I'll tell you what, let me get you in here a little closer so you guys can see all this cool stuff. So the plan for today is I'm going to show you the muffler and what hardware I used to put that back together correctly. That's really nice. And we're going to try to get fuel lines in here, and probably end up taking this carburetor off. And I know I don't have a carburetor kit for it, but we're going to investigate that and kind of look everything over just one more time to make sure everything is okay before we go to try to really start this thing up. Yeah, fuel line and tank vent. So let's get in here and get started. So here's Jerry, and you can see I ended up putting some 5 millimeter bolts in here. I think it was 5.5 by 1.25 or whatever it is. Either way, and a lock washer behind there. And these threaded right in there, caught the threads that were originally in there, and it wasn't any struggle. There was no stack of washers. So I think what happened is those guys just, whoever it was, didn't have the proper bolt, and they did the best they could. So there's that. And next up is this fuel line that's down inside of here. And this goes to the carburetor here. And I believe this is a Bing carburetor. And then here's the tank vent that they came up with, which we're going to do something a little bit different. I might even have a factory OEM style with the little springs or whatever. Maybe look like Allen wrenches shoved down in there or something. Or if not, I know I've got an Echo tank vent, and I've got fuel line. So let's go ahead and get started with that. See here. First off, we're going to get our surgical mat away, and I've got some hemostats here. So we'll end up pulling this fuel line off if we can. Sometimes they can be real tricky. We'll start with the screwdriver here. There we go. Kind of helps to break that seal loose. There we go. Got that pulled off of there. Pop this cap off. Well, looks like what we'll do is we'll grab the... Here we go. If you don't have one of these, I just made this out of a piece of wire. You can make one out of a coat hanger or something. But man, these are so nice for fishing out fuel lines. There's a name for this in the surgical hook or something. Either way, I mean, that's not the real name for it, but that's what I would call it for the Chainsaw Hospital. We're just going to try to squeeze this. Yeah, this thing is toast. You saw how that little fuel line just absolutely, it's just disintegrated. There's nothing left. And there's the filter. Might not reuse that. Stihl loves to use these really massive push-on connector things. Let's see if we can get this old line out of here. And the plan is to just use generic line, regular fuel line, I would say. Yeah, see how it's just collapsed. This would have never worked. And put the fuel line into the tank, but sleeve it with a larger piece of fuel line on the outside as a grommet. Let's go ahead and pull this carburetor off. Got a 5/16 or what would be an 8 millimeter. So these, actually a nice thing is these don't have a choke lever per se on there, which makes it a little bit better. It's one less thing, one less linkage. I've got my bucket of parts, my bedpan here for all the extra innards and things. If you guys ever see me doing something and I'm not doing it right, just you can just drop me a line in the comments and just let me know, hey, Dr. Cutter, this is actually how you do it. We're just going to make a little incision right there on this tape, because that's how somebody was holding this on, because the screw is missing. A small incision there too. There we go. So that should release our trigger. Stick that down in there. We've got a spring floating around in there somewhere. Well, there we go. Got the leakage out. Now hopefully the carburetor can just slide. Yeah, it just slide right off. So let's see here. Oh, we got a Tillotson HK 29B11. So I don't know if I've got any parts. This is a Tillotson made in USA. So yeah, we'll end up looking for parts for this, or let's just see if it's halfway decent. But that what that did is it exposed this fuel line hole, or the fuel hole where it goes through there. We can go ahead and pull this vent off too while we're at it. There we go. I've got this 1/4 inch, I think. That's what that is, and that might go in there as a nice grommet. I would probably make that work. So this stuff here is a heavy walled line that looks like it'll fit on there perfect, and we'll make a filter work on the other end of that. This is just some whatever Tygon I've got. So let's cut a little piece off of this. Let's see here. It's got a little bend to it like that. So sometimes I've had to actually bend this fuel line into a shape like that to get it down into those holes and then hold it there. Sometimes I've taken, we'll try this time, is cut an angle on it like that. Once you got your little angle put on there with your side cutting pliers, you can sometimes get it started in there like that, and then it just pushes right down in there. So that's in place. The little grommet is. Now again, this is, yeah, we're just going to use, and this is actual Tygon here. So we just need a piece to go from the carburetor, which was like this, down through this hole right here, and then into the tank enough. So let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can feed this. Now, I have noticed if you put a little 2-cycle oil on here, that helps a lot sliding this thing through there. I just happen to have some Opti 2 here that I use in this dispenser bottle. You don't have to worry about anything interacting with anything, because Opti 2 or any 2-cycle oil for that matter is made to be in this system. We'll do the same thing here. We'll just cut a little angle on there so it can get started in there easier, just like that. Let's see here, we'll use our pliers to push. Looks like it's going in there fairly well. Oh yeah, there it is right there. So we'll just pull it out enough to get a filter on there. This one will go on there though, so what we'll do is we'll clean this up real quick. I like to get an old rag and lay it down here, and then go backwards through the filter with brake parts cleaner, and you'll see it kind of bubble out of there. See that old yellow gas coming out of there, all that. And that's flowing plenty, and you can see right here it's nice and clean. The last place I cleaned it out. That should be more than enough for us to get this thing going. Perfect. Alright, shove that back down in there. Probably don't need that much line. I kind of pulled on it a little bit when I was messing around. There we go. Okay, and then let's see, next stop. We need enough line to get to the carburetor, so we'll just cut it off right here for now. That'll be plenty to get to that barb on that carburetor, which is going to be right inside of here. There's our impulse line, just kind of looking at that. Intake side of the piston looks perfect. This thing's in good shape. Okay, successfully made another replacement fuel line. I do that a lot with the home lights. Just put that sleeve in there like that, and then fish a new fuel line through there. Probably why I'm a little low on that size, whatever that is, this heavy walled stuff. But Nonetheless, dig through what you got. You could have made this work probably with some smaller line, but what we had, this'll get it together. All right, it's carburetor time. Let's get this thing out the way and let's find a clean spot. There we go. On this rag here. Let's just take a look inside of here and see if this thing will even remotely attempt to run, and or just look at the style of the gaskets when I go to order replacement ones. So we'll just pop that off of there like that. Alright, so here's the inside of the carburetor. It looks like that intake screen there is completely clogged up, but don't want to pull these off of there because the little flappers, I might rip the gasket. See how hard those are. The fuel pump flaps. Okay. We might be able to get that to work, but yeah, that's definitely the screen right there. And you can see the junk. Let's flush that off of there. Some junk built up in there. I think that's just a vent to the atmosphere. Yeah, and it is. Yeah, it's got that little hole right there, so I'm not worried about that. Oh, and I got that screen nice and clean now. Well, not nice and clean, but clean enough to flow fuel through. All right. We'll leave that off for just a minute. Let's go ahead and pop these 3 screws out here. Let's see what else we got. What's behind door number 2? Doing some cardiovascular work. Aortic valves here and all kinds of cool stuff. A little bit different than a ball bro, but nonetheless, let's spray a little bit of this junk off of here. Looks a little bit better. Want to maintain our clean surgical environment. Right, so a little plastic block thing. Check this diaphragm. That looks okay. Don't see any crazy. We'll pressure test it and everything. What I'm saying is I don't see any like major dirt buildup or corrosion built up inside of there. But I do want to have a look at this diaphragm. Some junk built up right here. Flush that off of there. Yeah. Alright, yeah, so we might end up ruining this diaphragm. I hope not. Well, it doesn't really matter. We're going to get a kit for it anyways. I was just kind of hoping we could get this thing halfway back together. I just poked around until I found a spot that looked like it was going to want to move. An interesting setup. Just a lot different than, yeah, that was stuck. Got a little rust right here on this metering lever shaft. Must have had some water in the fuel system or something. Or well, depending on how long this thing had been sitting, it's no telling really. That still moves. It's not super crunchy or anything. So we'll go with that. But yeah, definitely an HK 29B14, not 11. Now that I have it cleaned up. HK 29B14. Interesting. So we'll put this back together like that. We'll put this back on here like that. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. I mean, the worst thing, it just doesn't run, right? So we still have to find a carburetor kit for it. We'll put this back on here. Like that. one screw back here. Before we put this back on, what we'll do is put some pressure on it real quick and see if it holds pressure. If it doesn't, we'll just end up taking it apart again anyways. Got our handy dandy carburetor pressure tester here. So that's our little get up there. So we've got our carburetor and we've got our pressure tester, and it's holding pressure. Yeah, that's really holding well. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so the carburetor goes on something like this. Put that in place. Now we need to get our linkage hooked up. Oh, I see now. Oh, silly me. We'll get it back in there nonetheless to where it works again. So, there we go. There, yeah, this thing had some water. Maybe the roof leaked onto it or something. It's one of those coarse threaded screws. Let's see if I've got something to put back in there. I've just got a sheetrock screw here. I just broke the tip of it off. It's number 2 Phillips, but I know it's not the right thing, but man, it'll be a lot easier than that electrical tape on there. For now, it's not a permanent fix, and I might even have the right screw, I'm not sure. But let's go ahead and get our nuts back on the carburetor there. These are 8mm or 5/16. I like to start them by hand. That way you're not fumbling with the tools while you attempt to get it tightened up on there, while you're cross-threading the nuts or something crazy. Because if you can't get it on by hand, you know something's kind of wrong. Oh, and the vent. That's right. Well, we can get away with the vent. Let's just get some gas in here and see if we can get this thing to fire up. There's some mix. Plenty to get us going. We'll worry about the oiler later. We might find out it's oiling if there's anything left in there. This will give us an opportunity to see how much the tank leaks. The tank gasket leaks. We know the tank doesn't leak because it had fuel left in it. I don't see anything dripping out of there. Pull it over a couple times by, just sometimes you can see the fuel starting to move through there. Because the impulse line is enough to... I don't see anything. So what we might do is give it a little shot right down our throat here and get it to pull over that way. There we go. That's enough there. Well, we've got it in the run position. Alright, so you can see we put our gas right down the throat there, a little amp of epi, and I'm just going to hold the saw like this since we don't have that top cover on there, or the top wrap on there. Let's see what we got here. Alright, that's what it started off with, what was down in the carburetor there. Don't see any fuel coming up through the carburetor or through the fuel line yet. We'll do that again so we don't have to pull our shoulders out of socket fooling around with this thing. Let's try that again. I saw some fuel come up through the line there. Let's do that one more time, see if we can get something to happen now. Yeah, so no gas getting up to the carburetor, at least past the carburetor. I think we've got it in the line right here. We can pull that off and see. Yeah, some gas came out of there. Let's check the jets real quick. This is the high, so that's all the way. That's half. That's 1. Let's go 1.5. Let's see what the low side is. Half, 1, 1.5. Good enough. We'll call that okay for now. It looks like we're going to need to get this carburetor, the gaskets actually replaced. So what we'll do now is actually we'll try to figure out why this chain brake is not resetting or engaging. I don't know. It might not have a band in it. I don't know. But we've got, oh, that's loose. Okay. So that is a problem. Does that not have, that does not feel like it has any screws in it at all. Oh, there might be one down here. Okay. And another one right here. Yeah, these up here are missing. Well, let's see, we're going to pull this circlip off. Yeah. So we'll put those over in our bedpan here. Oh, this needs to come off of here, this the bar pad. There we go. Go ahead and pull the circlip off of here. Keep your fingers and everything kind of holding this circlip. There you go. See how it shot out and hit my hand? It's a good idea to keep your hands on there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the snap ring since it feels like this doesn't want to come off of here, and that way we can go ahead and get this plate, this cover plate, off of here. All right, so we got our big snap ring off of there. Let's see if we can get this. Yeah, there we go. So once we get this off of here, we can see there's parts missing. I believe the brake band should sit in here, and the mechanism sits over here. Well, all that's missing out of here. That's not going to really keep us from continuing on. But I'll look at the IPL and figure out what all we need and see if we can get our hands on some replacement parts. So that'll be good. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Well, that wraps up part 2 of Jerry, our Stihl 038. We got to wait on some parts, so I'm going to have to put Jerry in the ICU here for a little bit. Keep an eye on him. Thank you so much for watching and being here if you've stuck out this long on this little project. So either way, remember, keep your chain sharp and stay safe.